So Deepak here again, and I'm in New Jersey right now with Dr. Paul Mills, who's the Director of Research at the Chopra Foundation, Dr. Diane Howell, who's a pediatric physician,
neuropsychiatrist,
and a neuropsychiatrist, but you do clinical practice. She's an expert in the autism spectrum and unusual activities, mind activities or supernormal mind, and she's been studying the savant syndrome in the autism spectrum. Me is Deepak, Mahesh, who is the father of this young boy. His name is Akhil, and then Manisha, who's his mother, and Heather, who's a therapist, right? You work with Akhil. So just, we're going to do some controlled experiment later with Akhil, who seems to have extraordinary abilities, what we would call non-local abilities. Manisha doesn't like the word telepathy, but so we won't use it, but it is the bigger mind,
yes,
not the edited human mind. So why don't we start with you a little bit? You told me a very elaborate story about Akhil earlier. Tell us a little bit of that, not the whole thing, but
sure,
how you noticed and then how he communicates with you. And we'll talk to Heather as well, and we'll talk to you, Akhil.
Yeah. So Akhil was diagnosed at 18 months, and since then we have completely changed the view of autism. And by 11 years of age, with a lot of interventions and looking in from a medical perspective, we somehow were able to tap into his world through an iPad and a letterboard. And he communicated that I cannot see my body in my mind.
I cannot see my body in my mind. That's a very interesting statement, because it just shows that mind is, in a way, we can think of it as the unedited mind is not local and the body is the localization of mind. Go ahead.
So he has also expressed that he thinks in pictures, and I was, as a mother, I was able to, with a pure connection, tap into his world and understand how he perceives his world. And we would ask him many basic questions of why he says letter A for everything, or why he says letter B for everything, and he would say that my brain gives me instructions, and when I get instructions I stop, but my brain tells me to say letter A for everything. So that's how we tapped into his world, and with whatever experience we have got from him, we share it through our to the other world, through our non-profit organization. Akhil
they have a non-profit organization which is called the Akhil Autism Foundation. We can send you a link about this, but do tell us about the fact that you communicate through this technology, but you also communicate silently, wordlessly.
So we are so connected that he actually, we are able to guess what he wants to say, and all that information which I have never learned, or it just comes into my mind, and then our communication becomes very smooth, as if we are vibrating at the same energetic level.
But without words. Without words.
Without words.
Heather, you work with Akhil, right?
Yes,
so
at school.
Do you have any comments to what Manisha is saying?
Yes, I've experienced some of the similar things. Akhil tends to tap into my personal life. So if something's happening with my children or something, he'll know. He'll kind of rub me and caress my hair, and then using the letterboard, he will say, like, one of my children is so-and-so okay, or what happened at school, and I may have just gotten a phone call from school and had to step out of the classroom. So he connects a lot.
So he's trying to say something.
Oh.
Huh?
Sure.
So E
Sure.
is it to
Sure.
show
He Had
her
My
mind
It
is
Very
very
Good.
good.
Say that again.
So easy to know that her mind is very good.
Very
My
nice.
mind is good?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
And he will say, like, he taps in a lot to, like, energy. Like, if he's meeting someone new, he will say, you have very good energy, I like you, or you're very kind and compassionate, or, you know, you're good with the kids, because I work at the school, so different teachers or aides, and he's very in tune to them.
And you were saying earlier to me that he would be at school and you had spoken to somebody, and he would then call you and say that you shouldn't have said this, this, and this, right?
Right. So
So you could tap into your mind.
yeah. So he would knew what I was doing. Like he's sitting in the school, and if I've come to his school, he would know that his mom is here. And he would tell that, explain to me, you came to my school today, then you went to this mall, then you communicated with A person and B person. So he used to do that earlier.
So that's what we call non-local communication. You know, our regular mind is probably editing out this world to us, but he has access to a bigger mind, what we can call tapping into a non-local consciousness. Mahesh, do you want to add anything to what Heather and your wife said?
Yes, so he does like a lot, because he speaks very limited with me, but I know that he would really read sometimes what I'm thinking of and acknowledges it, and we both kind of, it's much more like mind-to-mind communication, and this is what I have seen, like without
He's
saying
told
much.
you that in his world, when he can look at people who've passed on, or he was looking at people, that they don't use words, they just communicate silently,
Yeah,
right?
he had expressed that in my world people don't communicate. They close their eyes and there's a mind-to-mind communication.
So you had an interesting experience the other day. Paul Mills, who's Director of Research at the Chopra Foundation. Are you able to talk about this?
Sure. So as part of an experiment that we'll be doing here in a few minutes to really get more of the objective scientific data on the workings of the mind and the non-locality capabilities of the mind, I was preparing some index cards that a computer was generating, a series of random numbers, series of random letters. And we were preparing these cards back at our lab in San Diego. And while doing that, I very clearly experienced Akhil's mind come into my mind, into my attention, while we were preparing the cards. And it was really his, like a curiosity about what I was doing and what this had to do with him. So for me, this is a very interesting experience, and just more evidence of these capacities of the human mind beyond the typical locality of the mind-body that we think of it historically.
So finally, Dr. Dan Powell, who, as I earlier said, she's a neuropsychiatrist, she's the expert in this whole field. You've heard everyone. Can you make a few comments about Akhil in particular, and your insights into these non-local realms of communication?
I first met Akhil in June of last year, and at that time I did some experiments in which I randomized both words and numbers, and I was really impressed with his accuracy. His only errors were typos, and he would actually go back and self-correct them. And I started evaluating children like Akhil over 3 years ago, and I've met many parents who've said to me that their children have these kinds of skills. And so what we have here is we have children who have two things going on. They have a brain in which the right hemisphere is far more active than their left hemisphere, and that's the hemisphere that we tend to think of as being more associated with intuition. But we also have less frontal lobe activity, so there's less judgment about what we should or should not be able to do. And then on top of that, a lot of these children don't have the same kind of social conditioning that a lot of people have. And then you combine that with difficulty communicating and a strong motivation to be able to communicate with the people that are around you, such as your mother or your father or aide that you're working with at school. And so you have the perfect setup for these kinds of abilities to appear if they really do indeed exist. And I have found that these children exhibit them to an extraordinary capacity.
So in a way, his mind is not editing out information that we, through the hypnosis of social conditioning, automatically edit out. And we're also seeing that, while mind, brain, body, consciousness are, at least on an intellectual, cognitive, perceptual level, different entities, at the deeper level, it's all one. It's all one being. So can we ask Akhil if he wants to tell us anything about the ability to communicate with other minds, or anything else he wants to share?
My mind. S is B E R I very. C O S T I O U S. My mind is very conscious. O F of O T H E R S others. A R O U N D around. Get it? My mind is very conscious of others around me.
Are you conscious of our minds here right now, all of us?
You're doing great. You're okay.
You're doing good, doing good, doing good.
Are you? Yes. Yes, I am.
What do you want to do as you grow up, Akhil, with your life?
T O S. Go ahead. To science. I W. I want. T O to. L E A R N. Learn. Go ahead. T H E the M I N D. To science, I want to learn the mind.
To science. He wants to create the science that learns and understands the mind. So there may be thousands of people, in fact tens of thousands of people who are watching this. What would you like them to know? How can they be involved?
T O 2 A L W A Y S. To always. T A L A. To always talk. A G O U E. About. N E W. New. S T U D I E. To always talk about new studies.
New studies, explore the mind. So there you are. This is just a little introduction. We are going to be working with Akhil, with his parents, with Heather. We're looking at the science of non-local mind and who we really are. Not this just skin-encapsulated ego, localized in space and time, squeezed into the volume of a body in the span of a lifetime. But Akhil shows us the window to this big mind. Yes, Akhil?
C H A N A. Think. Y O U F O R. Thank you for. Y O U your. R E S P O N S T. Thank you for your response.
Okay, thank you. And we'll be, if you're interested in joining